When white supremacy announces a feeding frenzy, seems all the trash comes out to play. You know, to hear the white media tell it, if you're black, that automatically makes you far more likely to get this or that disease, or you're at far greater risk for this or that health condition, heart disease, diabetes, AIDS, athlete's foot, to be abducted by aliens, etc. But there's one disease far more deadly and serious than any of those that black people are much more likely to have: self-hate. And not only is the white media not identifying this deadly disease, this pandemic within the black community, the white media is actively and aggressively promoting it. Self-hatred is real in the black community. It's certainly more real than group economics. It's real and it's off the charts, and the carriers of this disease are actively trying to destroy us all. They are attempting to offer us up on the altar of their self-hate. They're going to sacrifice all of our lives because they hate themselves and they hate anyone who looks like themselves. They are attempting to get together with their white media masters who are using them as point dogs in the direction of the sanctioned target, almost always black men, and then, like the dogs they are, they attack at their master's or mistress's behest. We're seeing this in spades with the white media-generated hysteria over R. Kelly. Man, you'd have thought that R. Kelly carried out the September 11th attacks the way that the white media is acting, and this is an across-the-board onslaught going on here. The white media's never cared about R. Kelly this much, except when the whole Me Too thing went down. See, when the white media decides that they're going to publicize a black person, it's always going to be for a negative reason. This is deliberate. This is their racialist template. This is how they operate. Oh, they're talking about a black celebrity? Well, it's going to be something negative. You talk about a white celebrity, you talk about whether or not they're getting hitched. Who are they dating? I mean, they just got through talking about freaking Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner's home. Not even Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner, but their home. Apparently, Adam Levine just bought it for $32 million. So you talk about white people, it's always going to be something positive. You talk about black people, it has to be something negative. That's deliberate. But of course, as we all know, R. Kelly is not the real target here at all. The black community is, specifically black men. That's the real target. White men are being exposed left, right, and center for their hundreds-year-long sexual predation. And what's happening is the white men who own the media and run it, they want to change the headline, or at least to dilute the number of images showing white men being accused of sexual assault. Why, we got nothing but white men being shown like this. Well, you know, these niggers, we need to put a few of their pictures out here too, buddy. So since white people own a disproportionate amount of media outlets, they're using that media monopoly in order to manufacture out of whole cloth media campaigns specifically against black men. And it has to be against black men. White supremacy is not based upon anti-Asian racism, is not based upon anti-Latino racism, it's based upon specifically anti-black racism. So if you're going to try to start some sort of media counter-narrative to get the heat off the pale males, well, dragging in some Asians for some abuse, that ain't going to do it. They got to be black. They have to be black. Whoever the scapegoat is must be black. Every time a white man's name comes up in the news in relation to a sexual assault scandal, the white media immediately swings into action and digs up some black man who they can accuse of something, anything, even if it's absolutely nothing. And you can tell that this is a deliberate and systematic group attack by how consistently they do it, how across the board it is. You're seeing it from all of the major and medium and some of the minor media outlets, whether online or electronic broadcast, what have you. This is deliberate. There's a program at work here. Les Moonves loses his $120 million severance package amidst claims of corporate malfeasance, which, by the way, for anyone else would have, if you were black, would result in prison time. And all of a sudden, the white media screams, "No, no, no! Look over here! Don't look at Les Moonves! Look over here! We found a video of Kareem Hunt when he was defending himself from a racist white woman." And when that was exposed for the racist fraud that it was, the white media screamed, "Look over here! Reuben Foster has some vague, indescript accusations against him, and it's from a biracial woman, so you can't say racism this time." By the way, we haven't heard much about that little dust-up about Reuben Foster, have we? See, soon as Les Moonves began to fade from the headlines, the white media's interest in Reuben Foster also began to fade. Kevin Spacey got charged with indecent assault, and the white media screams, "No, don't look at Kevin Spacey, look over here! Kevin Hart made a joke about gays a decade ago." Women accuse Catholic nuns of sexually assaulting them this week, then next thing you know, look over here, someone made a docuseries about R. Kelly. Now, where's the docuseries about Kevin Spacey? Where's the docuseries about Jeffrey Epstein? Are we going to see Lifetime decide that they're going to put on an entire docuseries where we're just going to do nothing but talk to all of Harvey Weinstein's victims and his media associates? We're just going to go in on him. Are we going to see it being promoted across the board? Are we going to see day after day after day of everybody from Facebook to Twitter to YouTube to Google saying, "Oh, what's trending? Harvey Weinstein's docuseries, the many victims of Harvey Weinstein. We're going to make sure that everyone sees that." Is that what's going to happen? Nope. You might have somebody who does some hole-in-the-wall article, or you might have some blink and you'll miss it thing on some broadcast channel somewhere, but you better believe they ain't going to do what they're doing with R. Kelly. This is deliberate. This is the white media as a whole acting in concert. I want to know where the docuseries about Jeffrey Epstein's at. Is anyone going to go knocking on doors, turning over every leaf, deciding that we're going to take out a public petition? If you were raped by Jeffrey Epstein or any of his rich and powerful buddies, come talk to us. We got a documentary. We want to put you on the air. We want the world to hear your story. Is that going to happen? Nope. The documentary about Roman Polanski, that didn't get wall-to-wall coverage. If you didn't see it on the festival circuit, then you didn't see it at all. Oh, but the white media did make sure you saw CNN's mockumentary, The Case Against Cosby. You didn't have to buy a DVD in order to see it. You didn't have to hope that you could see it on the film festival circuit. The white media put that on basic cable TV. They wanted to make sure everybody saw it. And just in case you missed it, they put it on YouTube too. The goal here is simple. This is social engineering. This is a racist white media trying to program the public mind, to condition the public to think that there's some sort of false equivalence between white men with power who rape 80-plus girls like Jeff Epstein did, and a black man like Kareem Hunt who didn't rape anyone. The white media is trying to brainwash people into thinking that there's some sort of false equivalence between Kevin Spacey, a gay man who allegedly attacked other gay men, some minors allegedly, and Kevin Hart, who merely made a gay joke. I'm supposed to think that there's an equivalence between Kevin Spacey and Kevin Hart? And there's no accusation so minor or so clearly false that the white media won't pick it up and run with it. So when you bring up the latest white man who used his position to prey on women, men, children, whomever, the idea is to get people to think, well, white men aren't predisposed to this behavior, and if they are, well, it's certainly no worse than anyone else, particularly black men. This is about trying to create a false connection in the minds of the public. You take two unrelated things and you mention them in close proximity to each other. That's the way that you create a false association in people's minds, like W did between September 11th and Iraq. He just kept saying Saddam and 9/11 in every sentence. Totally unrelated, but just keep saying it over and over again, and people think that there's some sort of connection there. They'll have an association in their minds that doesn't really exist. But the white media realizes, though, that up until this point, their attempts to try to scapegoat black men, their attempts to deflect and distract attention onto black men, it hasn't been as effective as they would like, and in some cases, such as Kareem Hunt, it blew up in their faces, because the new voices of black media were the ones who lit the fuse. So the goal now is not to merely fool people into thinking that black men are as guilty of sexual predation as white men. Now the goal is to browbeat the public into the misconception that black men are the only ones who engage in sexual assault. What they're trying to do now is they're trying to make it clear, we're going to racialize rape. We're going to racialize sexual assault. It's a racial pathology, but only one that black men have. These white guys, these are exceptions. These are outliers, black men. There's a problem in the black community. See, when you bring up Harvey Weinstein, you bring up Jeffrey Epstein and Kevin Spacey, and you bring up Les Moonves and Charlie Rose, and you bring up Louis C.K. and all the rest of these degenerates, that's not a racial issue. It's not indicative of a racial pathology. However, R. Kelly, you bring up one R. Kelly. In the black community, we need a real discussion about, yeah, Tariq Nasheed did a brilliant expose, rather exposing on his YouTube channel of where this crap is coming from. This is not grassroots at all. It's AstroTurf. You got the grandniece of Walt Disney, that wonderful post-racial colorblind scumbag that he was. And here he is, one of his descendants, or at least one of his kin, who's sitting here showing that the Disney family tradition of trashing black people is alive and well in 2019. That's what's going on here, folks. It ain't grassroots, it's AstroTurf. And it's pig simple common sense that this is what's going on. So how does the white media cover up their smear campaign? They don't. They get some bought and paid for black bootlicks to do it for them. Cue the black feminist, cue Shea Butter Twitter, cue the black LGBTQRSTUVs and all the other hyphenated morons who spend every day dreaming of escaping being black. Unfortunately, the disease of self-hate in the black community is so epidemic that there's no shortage of black people who will gladly slit their own throats if they can get a pat on the head from the people of the right skin color. Neely Fuller explained that white supremacy believes in controlling both sides of every issue. This is a basic tenet of warfare, especially racial warfare. How do you guarantee that you win a war? By controlling both sides. White supremacy relies on controlled opposition so that people predictably, when they try to fight against the oppressing power, they're going to go looking for whomever the most high-profile opponent seems to be. What group is already pre-existing that seems to be opposing the standing order? People will naturally do that. It's hard to create your own organizations. It's hard to do grassroots work. It's hard to be able to gather people one by one. How do you start a movement? You start with one person. That's hard to do. Looking around to see if somebody else has already done all the heavy lifting and done all the hard work so you can go ahead and march in their parade, that's much easier. So that's what people do. They look around to see what high-profile opposition there is, and hey, I'll go over there and be part of their parade. White supremacy counts on that. So you've got one side who aggressively pushes the oppressor's agenda, and then you got this other group of phonies who pretend to oppose them. It's all a game, political theater. We see this with so-called civil rights groups like the NAACP, and they got their national and local leaders who are always, whenever you see these people or talk to them, they're always glad-handing and smiling with the police and members of the city council and such. I mean, these are people who don't do anything for black people. Anyone who's got a badge or anyone who's got a political post, here come these civil rights retreads who are glad to be shaking hands with them and taking pictures with them, and oh, I got to have lunch with so-and-so. How can you fight for black people's rights when you are openly, proudly bragging about sitting down and having lunch or some other social function with the very scumbags who are abusing and oppressing us the most? So your typical civil rights organization is nothing more than the typical traitors. And who do you see propping them up, giving them airtime and letting them hang around at political conventions? White power. That's who. And since the young black people have made it clear that they're not going to follow these civil rights retreads, nobody's going to follow these fossils, and no one's going to support their agenda either. The young people are not supporting it. What that means is all of this crap that these clowns were doing, these fakers, frauds, and phonies from the 60s, these baby boomer burnouts, it's going to die with them. And now what's happened is, predictably, they've been reduced to begging any group of social misfits to join them. White power still makes a pretense of pushing these chumps on TV, but it's clear white power is losing interest because the black baby boomers are finally dying off, which means the morons who were silly enough to ever believe that the NAACP was worth a damn, they're disappearing, and there's no black young people silly enough to replace them. But the NAACP and the Urban League and all of these other professional do-nothing groups, they showed that white power has for over a century understood the necessity of having a phalanx of bought and paid for black flunkies at the ready to mislead us. This is how clearly political frauds like the Democrats and even smaller groups like so-called libertarians have managed to last as long as they have. It's like two lawyers in court, or like pro wrestling. These people, they make a lot of noise and they talk loud and they put on a real show for the audience. Why, these two-bit fakers have people convinced that they're actually opposing each other, when in fact they're simply whipsawing the public from one to the other. They both work for the same master. You don't know that, but they do. You have no friends, black people. That doesn't just include non-black groups. That includes political parties and political ideologies too. You don't have any friends in these political parties. You can call it whatever the hell you want. Marxist, Leninist, capitalist, whatever. The point is, if it didn't come from you, you ain't got no friends over there, so you can go ahead and pick whatever political ideology you want. It doesn't matter. You ain't got no friends there. And it falls to us, new voices of black media, to make this known. Tip my hat to Tariq for the retweet, by the way. And that brings us to the front Negroes who white supremacy is always putting out there to sell the soap. Whenever it comes time to attack black people, you got to make sure that you soften up the intended target first. So you go ahead and get some bought and paid for Negroes to go ahead and hold hands with the white folks attacking us. Get them to repeat the same racist line as the white supremacists do. Go ahead and do that, and what it does is it gives rhetorical cover to the white supremacists. Why, you can't say it's racist. We have some of these Negroes who are saying the same thing as we are, and we should know. After all, we still have the paycheck stubs that we gave them. Whenever white supremacy's lying, they make sure to take some of these lousy bastards who are on their payroll and trot them out. They never bring them out at any other time, by the way. Comes time to discuss serious things, you ain't going to be seeing Jamila LaPuke. Do bring her out whenever there's a black man who they're getting ready to target. And black feminists, they are pathetic as hell. Jasmine Barnes was murdered in Houston a few days ago, and her murderer is still on the loose, and no doubt looking for his next black victim. A 7-year-old child shot in the freaking head in front of her own mother. But you're not seeing these black feminists making a big deal about that. They might do one blink and you'll miss it tweet, as a side, just as an afterthought, just to cover their worthless behinds. So now nobody can say they didn't say anything. Yeah, but the thing is, if I look at the number of tweets or the number of Facebook postings or the number of articles or columns that these clowns have written about Jasmine Barnes, it's like looking for water in the Sahara. But you look for what they're saying about R. Kelly, man, you ain't got to look for that. They'll hit you over the head whether you want to see it or not. They'll drown you in that mess. So that lets you know what their priority is. Saving the lives of black girls. Who gives a damn about that? That's not important. White power isn't going to reward us for that. These white folks, they're paying us attention, but they brought up R. Kelly, so we understand what Massa wants. Massa wants us to go after R. Kelly. We'll do that. Well, what about saving black girls' lives? Well, I'm sure somebody will get around to it. Yeah, the new voices of black media. We'll be the ones who do that. Not your black feminists. The white media is trying to push Jasmine Barnes' murder out of the news cycle. But the black men of new black media, we've been keeping her murder in the public eye, keeping it in your ear, making sure you're reminded about this. This is unfinished business to find and make sure the animal who did this gets punished. So after the white media finishes trying to distract us with whatever other, if it bleeds, it leads distractions out there, we're still going to be here to remind people that a black girl was murdered and her white killer is still on the loose. And we're not the only black men out here trying to get justice for Jasmine Barnes. DeAndre Hopkins of the Houston Texans says he's going to donate his entire playoff check to pay for her funeral. This is what you see black men doing after a black girl is murdered. A far cry from what the feminists are doing, which is they've decided to take the white media line, and it's time to forget about Jasmine Barnes. We got more important things to take care of. Now, if these whacked out black feminists really gave a damn about protecting black girls, why is it that it's only black men who are leading the charge on this? You would think that with a race killer targeting black girls, these black feminists would be screaming for the rafters. Hey, where's Beyonce at? Better yet, where's Jamila LaPuke? Or So Full of It Nelson? Hey, Sleaze Merritt. Where the hell are you at? You got time to see if you can tee up a quickie civil suit against R. Kelly for some fast cash, but a black girl is killed just a couple of hours from where you live and Sleaze Merritt ain't doing nothing. Yeah, that figures. As far as that bastard's concerned, he was one of the main scumbags talking about rape culture. Well, can we talk about kill culture? Can we talk about white supremacist kill culture, Sleaze Merritt? Nah, he ain't got much to say about that. He doesn't see a paycheck in trying to get justice for Jasmine Barnes, so he ain't interested. Hey, tell me something. Whatever happened to some of those black feminists who want to climb the Statue of Liberty? Anyone gonna climb the Statue of Liberty to bring attention to Jasmine Barnes' murder? Anybody doing that? Are we gonna have these black feminists doing that? Hey, say, where's Tarana Burke at? Ain't seen her in a while, and I know she damn sure ain't getting a nose job, so there's no excuse for her not being in the public eye. She's laying low. She should. She should be ashamed of herself. Talking about Me Too, we should start a hashtag for all the black victims of all of these white supremacist murders and go ahead and put this person too, this other person too. Yeah, but Tarana Burke ain't interested in that. Rose McGowan ain't gonna be holding hands with you for a hot second because of that. And you know what the interesting thing is? You never see the black feminists of any of these other bought and paid off bootlicks going on a jihad about a white man who's been found guilty of harming women, especially black women. Jeffrey Epstein has been found to have violated at least 80 young women. Black feminists aren't even bothering to ask how many of Jeffrey Epstein's victims might have been black, and they don't care. So you got this guy, this pustule, this worm, this maggot, this serial rapist, and it never occurred to these black feminists to ask, wait a minute, this guy, this high-powered Wall Street type who entertained presidents and prime ministers, the rich and powerful, how many black girls was he violating? That never entered the conversation. They saw the white media put on 3 or 4 white women, and as far as they're concerned, well, it's just white women, so we get to dodge the bullet on that one. We get to dodge. Well, we know that the white feminists that we work for, they wouldn't like it if we said anything against a white man, so we're going to keep it shut. We're going to wait until there's a black man that they want to throw under the bus, and then we'll come out from whatever hole we've been hiding in. These black feminists, they're like a fat person who tries to hang out with skinny people because it helps them pretend like they're not fat. This is why they're so desperate to keep the white females accepting them, at least pretending to accept them. Black feminists don't value being black. They hate it. They despise being black. They hate any part of them that even reminds them that they're black. They hate being reminded that they're black unless they think that they can use it to get some gutter sex with a white man. Then all of a sudden, it's okay. Because there's a white guy with a naughty black girl fetish, and then she doesn't mind being black as long as he says it's cool. But other than that, you can forget it. They're not black. They're never black. They're Scottish and Irish and Swedish and Norwegian and Filipino on their mother's side. Anything but black. These black feminists keep saying that they want to talk truth to power. That's a lie, because there's no power in the black community. The most cowardly thing you can do is call yourself deciding to take on the black community because you went after the people with the least power, the least influence, and the least resources. It's a coward that goes after the black community. You want to show me you got some guts, why don't you go ahead and march up on white power and let them know we're in your grill and we're going to stay here. That takes guts, because they've got power. They got all the power in the world. Which is why you see the black feminists trying to curry their favor, because the black feminists are not black at all. They are the enemy within. You want to take on power, there's only one game in town, and that happens to be white power. And yet these shea butter bootlicks never seem interested in that. There's no white men who these black feminists seem to want to go on a crusade against. Remember, they're only going to do a blink and you'll miss it posting on social media. They'll do some throwaway article on one of their garbage websites, but that's going to be about it. They got to do something every once in a while. So, see, we covered ourselves. Now it's back to attacking black men full time, because that's what they're really about. And when you look at who it is that these black feminists work for, who they aspire to work for or who they're aspiring to crawl into bed with, you can understand why this is. So all these black screwballs who are calling themselves attacking R. Kelly, they want to join the feeding frenzy because they see white people doing it. They could give less than a damn if every black female in America was raped, because they're showing you with Jasmine Barnes that they don't give a damn when a 7-year-old black girl is murdered. But this isn't new. When Daniel Holtzclaw was raping dozens of black women, you know who wasn't making that big a deal about it? Black feminists. Now you got Michelle Malkin and a number of other racists, a number of other anti-black zealots who are engaged in all manner of lies, just an all-out war to smear Holtzclaw's victims, to try to say that they were liars, and they're trying to get this animal out of prison. They're trying to figure out if they could gin up some sort of lie that hopefully they can use on an appeal case. Can we invent some sort of rationale that might sound just pseudo-legal enough where we can get this guy out or get his sentence reduced or something? Where the hell are the black feminists at? Oh, we're concerned about protecting black women and girls. I ain't that interested. See, this makes it crystal clear. You can rape as many black women as you want, so long as you're white, or at least half white in the case of Holtzclaw. You can't be mixed with black. And as long as that's the case, the black feminists will turn a blind eye. They'll let you walk right into whatever courtroom you want, say not guilty, and the judge goes, charges dismissed. Or on the off chance that you do get convicted, they'll sit on their hands and allow Michelle Malkin or some other group of white supremacists to come along and say, we got to get this rapist out. I mean, after all, it's not like he was harming human beings. He was only raping black females. Now, let's be clear. If Daniel Holtzclaw does manage to get out of prison, the very heifers who are ignoring his crimes, they could wind up being his next victims. But given the behavior I've seen from them, given the unthinking words that they've said, a lot of them have made it clear that apparently that might not bother them so much. Perhaps it's something that they secretly aspire for. I mean, hell, when you're running around hoping for gutter sex with non-black people, well, there's pretty much no bottom to that sewer. These clowns, like the black feminists, among others, they are the forward element of white supremacy's propaganda offensive, and they know it. All of these hyphenated Negroes who are calling themselves cheerleading every time white supremacy is attacking black people, these black feminists, these LGBT types who apparently think that what they do in the bedroom is more important than their skin. No one's going to kill a black person for what they do in the bedroom unless it's with a person that the dominant society doesn't approve of it with. But they will kill you just for being black. That they will do. But apparently that's not important. These clowns have learned how to live outside of themselves. They've learned how to live their own lives vicariously. They're just watching it on television somewhere. It's not real to them, and your life isn't real to them either. Their job, their existence, is centered on one thing, and that's to help white supremacy ward off the logical accusations of racial bias, whether it's in the courts, whether it's in the schools, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in media reporting. Because these chumps never, the white media never trots these clowns out at any other time. The white media trained these black lapdogs well. The only time they can get any attention from their white benefactors is when they get called in to attack black people, specifically black men, so they beat that drum as hard as they can. This crap is coordinated, folks. Who is it who bankrolls Time's Up? It's the big talent agencies. And who was it who decided to start the drumbeat of we gotta get R. Kelly? It was Time's Up. And who is it who has the most access to and has the ear of Hollywood celebrities and media figures? With this whole surviving R. Kelly fraud, you see some celebrities in there. Well, a number of black ones, and the question then becomes, well, who put them up to it? The talent agencies who represent them put them up to it. Well, this is trending right now, so, look, we can all agree that R. Kelly's a bad guy, and this helps to keep you relevant. It shows everybody that you're relevant, and these empty-headed fools, they go right for it. You know that these talent agencies who represent them, individuals like Ari Emanuel's brother, right, like Rahm Emanuel's brother, Ari Emanuel, who, when he's not shaking hands with Donald Trump, he's instead employing individuals who have been accused of all sorts of sexual impropriety. They've been suggesting to their black clients that, hey, you need to attack R. Kelly. Well, why? What's R. Kelly mean to me? Well, it'll keep you relevant. And being the simple-minded chuckleheads that these black celebrities are, they obey masses' orders. They understand that it's not a suggestion. Whenever these white managers and white PR people and these white talent agencies tell these black so-called celebrities to do something, they understand that's not a suggestion. It's an order. It's white power telling you, okay, it's time for you to pay some dues for those paychecks we've given you. We made you famous. And just keep in mind, unless you want to wind up like R. Kelly, unless you want to wind up like Bill Cosby, unless you want to wind up like an Isaiah Washington or a Kareem Hunt or whomever, unless you want to wind up like Kevin Hart having to fend off all of this stuff, unless you want to get smeared, you better toe the line. And of course, being a black celebrity, that's what you signed up for. You signed away your dignity and your sovereignty and your self-respect when you decided that you were going to beg for crumbs from white media's table. But you never see any of these black celebrities attacking the Jeffrey Epsteins of this world. Have you noticed that? How many of these black celebrities have made it a point that they're going to go in on Jeffrey Epstein? How many of them have said, you know what, we need to have a platform for Jeffrey Epstein's victims. They know better than that. And nobody's dogpiling Kevin Spacey. None of these black celebrities are dogpiling Harvey Weinstein. Now, you would think that with all the white folks who have said stuff against Harvey Weinstein, the black ones would too. But nah, they're not, because they understand that's something we better not do. None of these black celebrities are going in on any of these people. They understand what the rules are. And by the way, before any of you brain-dead morons, you shea butter refugees, try to make any white noise about, well, don't it matter, though, that R. Kelly's a child molester? Well, yes, but the white media doesn't give a damn about that, and truth be told, you don't give a damn about it either. If the white media hadn't brought up R. Kelly, you wouldn't be thinking about him either. R. Kelly has already been on trial, he's already worn prison orange, and he's already been found not guilty. Harvey Weinstein, on the other hand, who, by the way, has sexually assaulted black women, but you don't see any of these shea butter bootlicks talking about that. The same heifers who are running their mouths about R. Kelly, well, they're not really concerned about Harvey Weinstein, who, by the way, has not been forced to wear prison orange, and who the DA, Cy Vance, is once again quietly disposing of the charges against Weinstein. This is the same thing that Cy Vance did several years back when these accusations first surfaced. And after the first time that Cy Vance quietly buried the would-be prosecution of Harvey Weinstein, a few months later, Harvey Weinstein's lawyer slipped Cy Vance an envelope with $10,000. I'm not making that up. That happened. And people have always been asking questions about that. They're like, well, it didn't come from Harvey Weinstein. It came from his lawyer. Yeah, I'm sure the lawyer didn't get the money from Harvey Weinstein. So you want to know how it happened? That's how it went down. And again, nobody's asking about the black victims of Harvey Weinstein. The black feminists ain't asking about them. So much for caring about the safety of black girls. This is the kind of stupidity that's on parade. It's too easy to point these scumbags out. It's too easy to debunk them and point out the lies. It's just too easy. Why is it then that Professor Truth isn't going in on R. Kelly? You want to know why? It's because if a black man gets accused of something, that's usually all it takes to get the guy taken down. See, there's no doubt that R. Kelly is going to be run through the ringer for everything that he's even been accused of. It's the Harvey Weinsteins who are getting away with murder. Nobody's going to be putting him in prison. He doesn't get punished. Harvey Weinstein is not being held up as a proxy for all white men. He's not being held up as the thin end of the wedge. Just the beginning of an anti-white male offensive. Nobody's holding Harvey Weinstein up as a proxy for white men so that we can start some sort of jihad against them. Nobody's doing that. But with R. Kelly, that's exactly what this is. They don't give a damn about R. Kelly. And even if you want to look at R. Kelly in isolation, there's some problems there. My issue with trying to make R. Kelly into the poster boy for black sexual predation is that his behavior was no secret. It was never a secret. Hell, R. Kelly was a creep back in the 90s. Almost as soon as he came on the scene, the rumors began. And this was long before the internet, way before a lot of you listening to my voice were even born. And you have to wonder, well, gee, if R. Kelly was running around just raping every unprotected black female out there, why didn't they go to Aaliyah? That should have been ground zero for the accusations. I mean, why didn't they talk to Aaliyah's mother? Oh, wait. Aaliyah's mother, Diane Houghton, she did have something to say about all this. And this is a direct quote from Aaliyah's mother. The woman and so-called backup singer in the forthcoming Surviving R. Kelly documentary that describes seeing, meeting, or ever breathing the same air as my daughter Aaliyah is lying and is a liar. My husband and I were always on tour with her and at interviews and every place she went throughout her entire career. Whoever this woman is, I have never seen her before anywhere on planet Earth until now. These lies and fabrications cannot be tolerated and allowed to be spewed from the forked tongues of saboteurs of Aaliyah's legacy. My daughter only wanted to realize her dream of sharing her talent with the world and give her all performing on stage and in front of the camera for the fans she adored so much. She realized that dream thanks to those true fans who still love and support her legacy unconditionally to this day. Shame on all those involved in this project who thought it kosher to drag Aaliyah's name into a situation that has nothing to do with her today. Once again, this will not be tolerated. Sincerely, Diane Houghton. Now, that was Aaliyah's mother who wrote that statement. And yet, you would think that the good folks over at Lifetime would at least be intellectually honest. They would say, well, you know, it's a documentary, not a hit piece, so we got to give both sides. We got to be balanced. And hey, who better than Aaliyah's mother, the woman who R. Kelly was most involved with, who better than her to speak to, at least to give something like balance? But this wasn't about balance. It was about having a one-sided lie. So there you got one example from one of the most damning people possible saying, nah, this garbage, this stuff that they're saying ain't right. Shame on everyone involved in this project indeed, and shame on everyone who's decided that they're going to give a wink and a nod to what they know to be largely overblown, if not outright lies. The people who are cheering this crap, they know exactly what's going on here, and they know why they're doing it. They're doing it because of the same reason that the white media's out there. It's always open season on black men. There's never a wrong time or wrong place. There's never a lie or an exaggeration too great when it comes to black men. A black man can do no right, and if he's seen to do right, well, we got to smear him somehow. There's a lot of things you can say against R. Kelly, but at the very least, don't you think if you're going to be throwing pedophile accusations at him, at the very least, don't you think the accusations should be true? You know, back in the day, back in the 90s, I tried to listen to this guy, but I had to stop. I couldn't make it. And the reason why was because all of his music was about sex, and in the most graphic terms that he thought he could get away with on radio and videos. Everything that he said, I mean, from his freaking songs about his Jeep, to his ignition, to the whole 9 yards, Chocolate Factory, all that. I mean, every damn thing this guy said was about sex, and that's it. It's obvious that this guy was fixated on it. And that's it. That was what his entire existence revolved around. This dude has a fixation. It was disgusting, at least for me. Well, while his fixation on sex was a total turnoff for me, his videos were all about broads in bikinis, shaking their behinds. And it's a matter of, dude, your songs are weak to begin with. Teddy Riley was much better than R. Kelly. Let's just keep it real. But the thing about it was, Teddy Riley wasn't willing to do what R. Kelly did. Okay, you can say that Teddy Riley, some of the stuff might have gotten a little bit racy, but that was very rare. For the most part, Teddy Riley kept it classy. R. Kelly, he kept it in the toilet. And yet, for some strange reason, you had all these teenage girls who thought that R. Kelly was something good to eat, literally. Apparently, they felt that his music validated something that they themselves were very much invested in. The more raunchy and lewd R. Kelly's songs were, the more the girls seemed to like it. And I got an issue with the fact that people are trying to be puritanical about this. R. Kelly's predation was no secret to anyone. Everybody knew that this guy was a freaking horn dog. They knew that this guy was a sex freak. He made his freaking songs about it. He wasn't trying to hide it. And nobody can lie and say, well, no, I thought that he was pure as the wind-driven snow. No, everybody heard R. Kelly's music. It's all about my body is calling you, and you remind me of a Jeep, and bend over, and all the rest of this crap. Let me put my key in your ignition. I mean, every doggone song, that's what it was with R. Kelly. What is all this garbage acting like he was some sort of choir boy? I'd like to know when this was. Give me a break. The parents of these girls, they knew that he was, what the hell he was. Everyone knew. I was a teenager in the 90s, and I knew what the hell this guy was. Everyone knew. The girls themselves, they knew it too. It was no secret. You got a guy who every song is about the most graphic insinuations about sex possible. It's the kind of lyrics that you can't even sing around your parents because of the fact that he's making it obvious what he's talking about. These girls knew exactly what the hell was going on. In fact, many of those parents of these girls, they were counting on R. Kelly taking a shine to their daughters. Let's just call it like it is. And this is something that doesn't get talked about enough, especially not in the black community. The parents, usually single mothers, who put their children into the way of sexual predators. Black parents, disproportionately single mothers who allow their daughters to be raped by their boyfriend. Mama's boyfriend gets to have some quality time with the daughter, or some other sorry excuse for a man who mama keeps letting in the house. And a lot of these women, most in fact, are totally aware of what's going on. Sexual predation in the black community is an open secret. It's the worst kept secret in town. Let's stop acting like, oh, someone's covering it up. Covering it up, it's out in the freaking open. This is what black feminists do, the kind of stupidity they engage in. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, it's all black men. Yeah, let's not talk about the fact that practically all of the sexual predation in the black community happens in the home. And who is it that runs the home? Not black men. Black men got forced out of the home. So we need to be asking these single mothers what the hell's been going on. You've been heading the household, so that makes you responsible. You're accountable. What's been going on? But that's not a conversation that the black feminists want to have, because that's not the point. The point is not to root out sexual predation in the black community. The point is to help white supremacy get attention off of white males' bad behavior and to go ahead and throw some to increase the pressure and the attacks on black men. That's what this is really about. So don't come to me talking about, we've got to protect black women and girls. I really wish the black feminists were actually concerned about that. Because unfortunately, too many of these single mothers turn a blind eye when their boyfriend or whatever live-in male is running around in their house whenever they're allowed to sit here and be able to sexually abuse their daughters or sons in some cases with impunity. It's obvious that for these single mothers, as far as they're concerned, it's much more important to keep this piece of a man around than it is to make sure that their daughters are safe. And you want to know why? That's because it's a whorehouse mentality that's gripped the black community. We are in the grip of a whorehouse mentality. We got too many of our women, not all, but damn sure enough, who are not thinking like women. They're not thinking like black people. They're thinking like whores. And it's the mentality of the whorehouse that drives these black feminists. Instead of a no-good boyfriend that they're trying to sell their kids to, it's a no-good white supremacist male or female who they want to keep around. And they're offering up you and your children as the living bait to these degenerates. Because that's the end result of all of this distracting onto R. Kelly. Yeah, while we're busy chasing red herrings with R. Kelly, because, I mean, for God's sake, does anyone even know what R. Kelly looks like? I mean, are there any pictures of this guy? Have we actually seen R. Kelly? I mean, if he walked up to you on the street, would you even know it was him? I mean, it's like, this guy is so secretive. R. Kelly, have we actually got a photograph of the man? Yeah, because he can just sneak up on anybody. Nobody would see R. Kelly coming. Give me a break. Meanwhile, you got Daniel Holtzclaw running around, Jeffrey Epstein running around, and God knows who else. It seems like every year, whenever there's some sort of hurricane that strikes Haiti, or whenever there's some sort of disaster in Africa or what have you, a few months later, or a few years later, we hear about so many of these white NGOs who went in there. NGOs means non-governmental organizations. And next thing you know, you hear about all sorts of sexual abuse. Oh, the UN sent in so many of their relief agencies. Yeah, next thing you know, you hear about all of these child sex trafficking rings and abusing of black children. which the black feminists don't have much concern for. So much for protecting black women and girls. How can these women live with themselves? Because as they see it, the cult of crotch power is the whole of their entire identity, and I do mean whole of their identity. Did R. Kelly have unwilling victims? Truth is, I don't know, because he didn't have to snatch any of these females off the streets. He didn't tie anyone up. The only weapon that he had was his fame. And let's be blunt here. To females, attention, especially from a famous man, that's a drug. It's an irresistible drug for females. R. Kelly didn't have to coerce or pressure any of them into doing anything, because as they saw it, bragging rights to being R. Kelly's one-night stand, that was currency. That meant more than gold. Let's be honest here. R. Kelly didn't have to snatch anybody. They were lining up. Now, did some of them have fire crotches remorse later on? Again, I'm not sure, because the truth is, if you're angling to take some famous moron with a loose zipper to the cleaners, then of course you're going to scream bloody murder no matter what the truth is. And these women seem to be going for the Academy Award with some of this stuff that I was seeing on this so-called documentary. They thought that there's a best actress for organized victimhood. See, the difference between me and these black feminists is I was disgusted with R. Kelly before white power thought it convenient to jump on him. I was disgusted with R. Kelly before the black feminists got their marching orders from white mommy and white daddy. So I got some choice words for these black feminists who claim they want to stop intra-racial rape in the black community. You can start by looking in the mirror. All of you black feminists out there, you shea butter bootlicks, and all the rest of you fakers, frauds, and phonies who are trying to figure out how to get a pat on the head for some white folks for attacking R. Kelly, you want to start the process of trying to root out the rapists in the black community? Start by looking in the mirror. Start with yourself. That goes triple for you black feminists. Because the crotch culture advocacy that you picked up from white women in the 60s, that is one of, if not the most dominant reason we have this problem in our community. If sexual assaults have gotten totally out of hand, we can lay much of the blame on the sexual libertinism crap that black feminists brought into our community in their relentless efforts to imitate the white women that they so desperately wish they could be. You idolize white women to the point that when white women spew some sexual libertine nonsense, which white women by and large don't do, you go, well, they said it, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. This white woman's laughing at you, thinking, I'd never be that dumb. She's having a good chuckle, and you're thinking that she's laughing with you when she's laughing at you. Let's be straight up about it. Ever since the 1960s all the way to the present, there's been a flagrant culture of females who think that their crotch is their power. Now, certainly this is not all of them, but the problem is you can look at the STD figures, more than double what it is for women than men, and in the black community, the disparity is greater than that. What that lets us know is, yes, this has become an ingrained part of female culture. And that is going to cast shade on every accusation that gets made, especially as a group. Because we're going to have trouble figuring out where's the difference between crotch culture and real sexual predation. Too many females have made an entire culture out of trying to navigate their way through the world crotch first, and this gets a lot of them into situations that they later regret. You've got aunts and female neighbors and even mothers who teach their daughters and any young females they can come into contact with that their crotch is their power. Do you think that as men we don't know or hear about the slutty, stupid little anecdotes and witticisms and slogans that women like to say amongst each other and that they say to young girls? You think we don't know about it? That when you tell your daughters you've got power you don't even know about, you think we don't know you're talking about sex? You think we don't know that? Well, you can't start a fire without friction. I've heard women saying this garbage. They got all sorts of stuff that they think is clever, but I mean, the sex talk among females is just rampant. When men are alone, by and large, they don't talk about sex, but that's kind of uncomfortable for them. Let's talk about crotches around other men. They'll talk about sports. They'll talk about aggressive things. Females get together. It's all about their crotch, all about sex. It becomes just the language is in the gutter, and they seem to like it there. What the hell has happened? When I try to engage women on the subject of reining in sexual behavior, I couldn't help but notice I get the same level of resistance and belligerence that I receive when I take on white supremacists. And it seems to be for the exact same reason. The white supremacists see racism as their power, and they're not going to let you take that away from them. And too many women, a numerical majority, see sex as their power. And when someone sees something as their power, then they're not going to let you take it from them, and they won't even tolerate you telling them that there might be something wrong with it. And too many of them will resort to any cowardly defense or distraction to get attention off of that pig simple truth. Look, if you're really so hot and bothered to sniff out sexual predators in the black community, you can start by asking all of these single mothers which one of their boyfriends they've been let molest and rape their kids. And it's not like they don't know. Let's stop with this garbage that, oh, these single mothers are as pure as the wind-driven snow. Let's be bluntly honest. A lot of them became single mothers precisely because they ain't innocent. And after we get through finally holding these single mothers to account for the males that they let come around their children, you can then ask these single mothers why the hell did they let it go on for so long and not do a damn thing about it. Because unfortunately, too many of the heads of these black households only think about themselves. They got nothing but contempt for their kids. That's why they're not defending their kids. If there's going to be a focus on sexual predators in the black community, then that initiative needs to come from within the black community. This whole R. Kelly hysteria, that came from white people, not us. And that should be your first clue that there was something wrong with it. This was something that white power wanted. And they're not doing it for the sake of protecting black women. If they did, then they wouldn't be trying to get Daniel Holtzclaw out of prison. This is for something that white power wants. They're trying to insulate white men from further media scrutiny because they couldn't help but notice that the longer people keep talking about all of these white men preying on women, the longer people are wondering when are some of these white guys going to go to jail. Sooner or later, it's got to go there. The longer the conversation goes on, the worse it's going to get for white male immunity from law. White male immunity from law may be a strong wall, but it is not impenetrable. It's not invulnerable. The longer we talk about it, the greater the chance that someone's going to say, well, gee, shouldn't at least a few... Man, look at how many white guys haven't gone to prison. Louis C.K., no charges. Les Moonves, no charges. Harvey Weinstein, the charges are getting knocked down. Jeffrey Epstein, no charges. Kevin Spacey, he's been charged, but we all know it, that ain't going nowhere. Woody Allen, no charges. Roman Polanski, still free as a bird. I mean, it just keeps going on and freaking on and freaking on. Don Hewitt was abusing women for decades while he was supposed to be the patron saint of American journalism. So the longer the conversation goes on, the worse it gets for white male immunity from law. So they want to stop the conversation now, short-circuit it now, get the attention off the white males and get it onto some black ones. They understand white power understands exactly the social dynamics at work. It's just like with the police killing black people. After a while, seeing all these cops getting away with it, the public began to say, well, dang, shouldn't, at least as a matter of statistical error, shouldn't one or two of the cops go to prison? Next thing you know, you had Peter Liane get convicted. Then you had Michael Slager. Now you got Jason Van what the hell in freaking Chicago. First time in 50 years that a cop was found guilty of second-degree murder, and they're looking and going, whoa, this is a problem here. Continued scrutiny will inevitably lead to prison sentences. So they intend to head that off now before it goes any further, and these black feminists, they're helping white power get away with it. They're running interference for them. And while we're busy finally rooting out rapists in the black community, for all you black feminists out there who are so hot and bothered, if we're going to go ahead and root out this sickness within, it's way past time that we finally brought up the evil in the community that dare not speak its name. An evil that everybody is too timid to talk about in the black community, and that is black women who prey on black boys. See the movie Antoine Fisher if you want a dramatization of that. What? White women sexually prey on black boys in school, but black women don't? Who are you trying to fool? I guess we don't listen to black boys, do we? We certainly haven't listened to the extent that black boys have been targeted to be put into special education classes in school. You know, when black boys are being targeted in schools, being targeted on the streets, we don't really listen to them. So when black boys are trying to make it clear that they're being targeted by these women in the community, we don't listen to that either. You want to finally engage in a discussion about getting rid of the rapist in our community? Well, it's nice to see the black feminists finally show up to the party. You're only about 80 years late. But if we're going to deal with the rapists in the black community, then we're going to have to deal with all of them. We're going to deal with every single one of them, all of them. Not just the ones who your white benefactors are prodding you to go after. Not just the ones who don't have the same genitals as you. If we're going to have a real conversation about this in the black community, then let's make it a real conversation. Let's go after everyone who sexually assaults black people, male and female. And we're also going to have a real conversation about how these degenerates were allowed to fester among us for so long and who specifically has been allowing it to happen. We're going to get to the root of the problem. You ready to have that conversation? We are a matriarchy, and that's made our community into easy prey from without, and it's made us into a safe space for sexual predators from within, both male and female. Any substantive conversation about rape in the black community that does not discuss in depth the black women who rape, that's not a conversation at all. It's a pack of lies. And when I say we're going to talk about it in depth, that doesn't mean a brief mention in passing. It doesn't mean a blink and you'll miss it reference. I mean we're going to be citing cases, naming names, spending real time on it, and showing where progress is being made and rooting it out. We're going to root this out across the board. Fine. So-called rape culture is a disease, right? Well, you can't get rid of cancer unless you get rid of all of it. Simply getting rid of most of the cancer or only half of the cancer, that won't suffice. I, for one, am willing to promote and participate in any conversation about this topic. My only condition is that it has to be an honest conversation and not a whitewash. Black feminism helped to put a cancer in our community, sexual libertinism and black matriarchy, and that's part of why the male sexual predators in our community haven't been rooted out. Because in most cases, there's a black woman who wants the bastard around. Either it's some son of hers who she's running interference for, or it's some boyfriend that she's willing to do anything, including to offer up her own children to keep them around. Hey, if he's not interested in my sagging boobs and my flabby behind and my cottage cheese thighs and the freaking stretch marks, if he's not interested in me, well, I notice he keeps looking at my daughter. Well, hey, anything that keeps the guy coming around, I suppose. And after all, it's not like he's so bad. And you know, she gets a little mouthy sometimes. We need to have a conversation about how black mothers look at their black daughters as sexual competition, which is a large part of why these mothers sit on their hands while their black daughters are being abused and raped and all the rest of it. Because they look at the daughter as sexual competition. So as far as they're concerned, when you think that your crotch is your power, when your identity revolves around a hole between your legs, well, when you notice that some other females got the same plumbing, you're not going to look at them through the eyes of humanity, especially not your daughter. You look at your daughter as being sexual competition. Man, isn't it amazing? The older I get, I look worn out, but the older she gets, the better she looks. Especially in the eyes of men, right? You think that men don't know what's been going on with black females? You think all of this self-hatred, hatred of color, hatred of gender, hatred of genealogy, you think that you've been fooling someone, that we don't know about it? You're not fooling anybody. Just because you haven't listened to what we've said doesn't mean that we haven't been saying it. Just because you refuse to listen to what we say doesn't mean that we're not right. Any coward can call out R. Kelly. If people had actually listened to black boys, Eddie Long wouldn't have gotten away with his foul crap as long as he did. Male sexual predation is the flip side of female sexual libertinism. The reason we've got a lot of sexual offenders running around is for the same reason that we've got so many thoughts among us. Both the rapist and the fire crotch have something in common. They both look at sex as being the source of their power. Now, until these black feminists are willing to have an honest conversation about that, then nothing's going to truly change. But then again, they don't give a damn about changing anything in the black community except for black men being able to have just 5 minutes to have a breather without being under assault. That they do want to change. They're like, there shouldn't be even 1 second that black men are not being attacked. Well, ain't you going to go after these white guys over here who actually are attacking you and doing so with impunity? You go after a black man, he's going to get punished. What about the white men who are attacking you? Well, I'm sure the white women are taking care of that. Yeah, they're taking real good care of these rapists, the same way that a girlfriend takes care of her boyfriend. And allowing the white media to put on these public distractions like surviving R. Kelly, that's not going to change anything. Well, it won't change anything for black people, though it will give tons of cover to the white sexual predators, which of course was the entire point of this whole sordid exercise. If the white media was really so hot and bothered over people preying on children, then they would be making a docu-series about Jeffrey Epstein. They would be seriously looking into everyone who's in his freaking black book. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein's own butler ran off with his black book, showing the freaking flight manifest for all the men who were on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. You know, the one that he nicknamed the Lolita Express. And all of the rich and powerful men who Jeffrey Epstein would take to his private island, which they nicknamed Orgy Island. How many black girls did Jeffrey Epstein violate? None of these black feminists have ever expressed any interest. You haven't seen any of them talk about that. Out of 80 plus young women, you mean to tell me that not one of them was black? Not even one? Come on, y'all know how this works. Especially with these white guys, they know that if they can get their hands on some black girls, well, no one's going to stick up for them. If Jeffrey Epstein decided that he wanted to violate exclusively black girls, I can tell you right now he wouldn't have had to worry about the U.S. Attorney's Office coming after him. They would have just gone ahead and ignored any and all charges out of hand, but he went after some white girls, and well, that crosses the line. Of course his victims are reluctant to come forward. You got some middle-aged degenerate who takes you into a room, and when you walk in, you see Bill Clinton, or you see Alan Dershowitz, or you see Alec Baldwin, or Kevin Spacey, you see former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. You begin to understand these men, this Jeffrey Epstein guy, he's got real power. He's got real influence. He hobnobs with celebrities and presidents and big-time media personalities. You go making trouble for him, he'll make more for you. So understand that this R. Kelly hysteria, this is not about media coverage, this is a media cover-up. Jeffrey Epstein admitted to what he did. He said, yeah, I did it. What you gonna do about it? He has presidents and prime ministers who are at his beck and call, and the U.S. Attorney's Office refused to prosecute him properly. They gave him a slap on the wrist, only a few months in the county jail, not even a penitentiary where he belongs. They put him in the county jail. And he only had to be in county jail for 8 hours a day. That was his curfew. He had to be there for 8 hours a day at night. What that meant was he slept at jail, but the other 16 hours of the day, he was allowed to walk out of jail, go to his posh mansion, go to his business. So he got to go home. He went to his business. He conducted all of his business, where he no doubt was setting up more girls for him to go after as soon as this little bit of trouble was behind him. And then at night he got to go to jail, no doubt with the doggone sheriff's deputies making sure that nobody got close to him. I wish I was making this up. That's what happened when Jeffrey Epstein was punished. The man's got immunity from prosecution, and he's a free man today. Not that he was ever imprisoned in the first place. Now, do you think that Jeffrey Epstein has decided to become celibate? You think that he's decided to prey on women who are at least of legal age? Think he's going to put his pedophile behavior behind him? Or do you think that he spent his time in... Do you think that from now on Jeffrey Epstein's going to spend a lot more time in foreign countries? Places that don't have an extradition treaty. Some faraway place where they don't know who he is and they don't recognize him and they don't know about his crimes. Countries where there's far easier access to underage children. You think that's where Jeffrey Epstein's going to go? Hey, maybe Jeffrey Epstein will do like a lot of these other big time, big money pedophiles. He'll start some charity so that we can bring drinking water to impoverished villages in the third world, places where there's not a lot of cameras, and where the rule of law will easily bend to a white man who shows up with a little bit of money in his pocket. And make sure that he's close to where the schools are, where the children are at. Oh, these children look very hungry, don't they? Oh, they surely need a warm bed to sleep in, preferably one that's been warmed up by Jeffrey Epstein. Maybe that's what he'll be doing. Well, one thing's for sure, wherever it is that Jeffrey Epstein pops up next, whoever he decides to violate next, the black feminists are not going to give a damn, because white power will make sure to tell them, no need to go after Jeffrey Epstein. Hell, you don't even have to tell the black feminists not to go after him. They understand the rules. They know without even having to be told. They know it. Sexual degenerates abound in the world of white media, from Harvey Levin to Harvey Weinstein, from Louis C.K. to Kevin Spacey. This docu-series is nothing but psychological conditioning for the public, and there's a lot of black people playing along with it. And it tells me a lot about the power of groupthink among these black feminists, because whenever it's time to check the black feminist, I find that a lot of sisters all of a sudden get quiet on me. I notice that the rah-rah gets a little tampered down for some reason, and that confirms that there's more black females than are willing to admit who sympathize with and outright support the black feminists. Well, let me tell that contingent of fence-sitters something. Those of you who want to talk black when white supremacy has its foot up your behind, but you want to think white the rest of the time, especially when it comes to who you aspire to get into bed with, just understand that's not a victimless crime. You think to yourself that, we're just having, these black men, they need to be checked every once in a while. To you, it's a game. You think it's cute. And you're setting up the next kill. These white supremacists who you're playing footsie with, they're not playing a game with you at all. This is not about getting some laughs at black men's expense. This is not a matter of feeling like, these black men, I heard some NFL football player was sleeping with white women, and those black men, they need to understand that there's hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. That's what a lot of this crap is going on here. These are some black females who are like, well, if I can't get the attention of a white man, I'll at least go ahead and attack black men for not giving me the attention I deserve. There's a lot of sick mentality that's come together like a toxic brew, and now it's come to the surface. But understand something, you're setting yourselves up. All you black women who are going in with this garbage, who either are openly or secretly, either overtly or covertly supporting this garbage, just understand, you are making it where you are going to become the next victims of white power. The animal who murdered Jasmine Barnes, he's still out there. Jeffrey Epstein is still on the streets. Harvey Weinstein never left the streets. And if your white feminist pals get their way, Daniel Holtzclaw will be able to join them as a free man, free to prey on black women like you. And the murder of Jasmine Barnes, you think that this guy's going to retire from killing? Whatever pathetic hate against black men that you harbor, it's clearly more important to you than your personal safety or even your lives. Because if you protect black girls from R. Kelly, who everyone can see and who everyone knows about, but you don't protect them from Jeffrey Epstein or Daniel Holtzclaw or the animal who murdered Jasmine Barnes, then that means you're not protecting black females at all.